Computer memory has become more valuable than gold in the last year or so thanks to AI needing all of it. Which makes it extra frustrating that after remortgaging your house to buy RAM, if you want to game or edit videos or run local AI, you also need a GPU with enough video memory for all of that. So you effectively buy memory twice. But then it doesn't feel like you have more memory because the CPU and GPU are selfish jerks who keep their private hoard of memory under lock and key. If only they could somehow share memory. Oh wait, they totally can do that. It's called unified memory and Apple didn't invent it. But they did make it work real good. So good that the entire industry is heading in that direction. But why didn't this happen earlier? Well, traditionally, a computer's CPU and GPU have used very different types of memory. A CPU runs general purpose code that must be executed step by step. It can't move on to the next step until it has all the data it needs. So CPUs typically use DDR, RAM that's been optimized to reduce the delay between asking for a piece of data and getting it back, also known as latency. But while the CPU is good at sequential operations, the GPU is all about doing things in parallel, using huge blocks of data to perform many very similar operations at the same time. Because literally thousands of operations are running at once, the major concern for GPU memory, or VRAM, isn't latency, it's bandwidth, a measure of how much data can be moved at once. This makes cross-memory transfers a bit difficult, as explained by Prashant Nair, Associate Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of British Columbia.
VRAM bandwidth is maybe 1.8 terabytes per second. The DDR bandwidth can also be very high, but the PCI bandwidth, the PCI Gen 5 bandwidth is like 64 GB per. And if you have to sort of move data between these two memories, there's a physical bottleneck in moving them.
No matter how fast things move in Big City A, everything bound for Big City B still funnels into one busy bridge called PCIe, and that's where it all bogs down. So long before Apple did it, some hardware engineers decided to skip the bridge and just let both the CPU and the GPU use the same memory, only to run into a familiar problem.
Unified memory is not something new. There was the Intel integrated graphics tens of years ago. It just didn't work properly, just because people didn't figure out how to share the memory between two different processors, right? With widely different access patterns.
The central bottleneck was always data transportation. Even if you eliminate the physical distance of a PCIe slot, memory information still has to travel between components. And how much data you can move depends heavily on the bus width, the number of lanes on the highway, so to speak. A wider bus means more lanes and more data transferred at once. Historically, the two strategies for tackling this problem depended on the use case. For general purpose computing, Intel and AMD used integrated graphics, or iGPUs, which were placed on the same chip as the CPU. Mobile SoCs actually take that a step further and package the RAM alongside the PUs, but they still talk to it over a narrow bus, usually 64 or 128 bits. For a CPU, that's totally fine, and it can even run games. But for a GPU grasping for bandwidth, a narrow bus is a chokehold. Consoles escape this by ditching separate system RAM and running everything off of one big pool of high bandwidth GDDR6, 256-bit on the PS5, 320-bit on the Series X, pushing hundreds of gigabytes a second. It's not as great for the CPU, but it works because a console only has one real job: gaming. That's a GPU-heavy, bandwidth-hungry workload. PCs can game, but they also have to handle the thousands of latency-sensitive tasks you throw at them. Therefore, it seemed like unified memory would remain a solution for the ultra niche until, that is, Apple truly let us have our cake and eat it too. And we're going to tell you how they did that exactly right after this message from our sponsor.
War Thunder! It's the most comprehensive vehicle combat game that lets you take control of over 2,500 different planes, tanks, ships, and choppers throughout history. There's vehicles from 10 major nations, with each one being incredibly detailed, right down to the way the engines sound. You know what I mean? So join over 95 million other players in intense PvP battles for free on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and even on your mobile devices. Just click the link below, and if you're a new player or returning after a 6-month hiatus, you can score a bonus pack on PC or consoles. Got things like boosters and vehicles. So claim your bonus and start playing today.
Instead of reaching for GDDR like a console, Apple used LPDDR, low power memory, that's also gentler on latency than the bandwidth-hungry GDDR consoles use. To To make up for the LPDDR's lower bandwidth though, they went wide. From 128-bit on the base M1, which is dual channel width since a standard PC memory channel is 64 bits, all the way to a ridiculous 1024-bit on the M1 Ultra. That's like 16 memory channels feeding one chip. That's up to 800 gigabytes a second of bandwidth in a personal computer using a single shared memory pool. Apple also refined dynamic allocation. See, older shared memory systems carved the pool into fixed slices. The GPU gets this much, the rest is for the CPU. But Apple made it so either side can draw from the whole pool on demand, so the memory goes wherever the work is needed and nothing sits reserved and idle. By sharing a single pool of memory, the CPU and GPU data doesn't need to be constantly copied back and forth across the PCIe lane, saving significant time, power, and the headache of keeping duplicate data sets in sync. This efficiency is also why a base Mac with 16 gigabytes of unified memory punches far above its price tag. And while Apple's 2020 M1 chip shipped just before the local AI boom, AI is one of the major reasons everyone is now scrambling for unified memory.
You can easily run like a 70 billion llama model or even larger models on Macs because they offer unified memory. Your memory can fit these models. If you were to use an RTX GPU, right? Like the one with 32 GB VRAM. That's not going to fit a 70 GB llama model. And then if you were to use discrete parts, you would have to buy a lot more GPUs, spend a lot more money.
But fear not, AI doomer, unified memory isn't just for AI. From rendering massive video timelines to giant 3D scenes, any use case that requires a lot of VRAM benefits when you aren't restricted to the measly 8 to 12 gigs on a typical discrete GPU. Of course, the elephant in the room is the trade-off. All the gains you get from unified memory come at least for the moment, the caveat that you can't really upgrade it. With traditional PCs, you can always pop open the case and upgrade your RAM down the road. Unified memory doesn't let you do that without considerable skill with a soldering iron and an exceptional disregard for warranty restrictions. Whatever storage and memory configuration you buy is what you're stuck with, which is why Apple's upgrade prices sting so much. There's also the risk of resource starvation. Because it's all one shared pool, a GPU-heavy task can hog the bandwidth and starve the CPU, or vice versa. But despite those downsides, the rest of the industry is actively pivoting this way. Chips like AMD's Strix Halo and NVIDIA's RTX Spark are bringing unified memory to Windows laptops and essentially trying to do for the PC ecosystem what Apple did for the Mac. And the thing pushing all of them in the same direction isn't purely speed, but a focus on efficiency.
Energy is going to be the bigger problem, right? The picojoule per bit, the amount of energy you spend in moving data.
And that efficiency shift is quietly flipping how we should shop for a computer. For decades, we picked machines by staring at the GPU and CPU, treating memory as an afterthought.
In the last several years, there have been a lot of emphasis on compute. Most people sort of look at compute first, maybe then look at memory. But I think in this day and age, memory is probably the most important part. You can actually get away with lesser compute and still get a lot more performance if you have a good memory part.
So the next time someone calls memory boring, remind them it's now worth more than gold, and the way we use it is being rebuilt from the ground up. And if all this talk on leaner, efficient hardware has you wanting to trim some fat on your software, check out our video on another industry trend, picking which Linux distro is right for you.